Guys. It's David Reeder with David Reeder Books, and today I'm going to be reviewing a book called The Written by Ben Galley, and it is the first book in the Iman series. So let's get to it. Oh, and I do apologize for keep wearing this shirt. It's my favorite shirt. I didn't choose the Hug Light chose me. So the book is basically, I've only read the first book, right, The Written, and it is actually the first book that Ben Galley has wrote. And let me tell you, if this is the first book that he's written, The Written, then I can only imagine what the level that he's writing at now, because this book is so detailed, the plot is so good, there's so many twists, and it just makes you, he's really good at writing in a way that okay, what's happening next? Oh, why is that? You know, he keeps making you want to read forward, and like I don't, like I told you, don't think of myself as a really big reader, because my last name is spelled wrong, but I couldn't stop reading this book. And this is a 500-page book, so it's actually a really big book for me to read. So the series takes place in the world of Emaneska, right, which is very detailed. It has creatures like dragons, worms, sirens, and vampires, right? And so those are all things that we're familiar with and that are all already in other fantasy books. But the way that he uses them and puts them into his own world and gives them his own details is completely novel. So it's very refreshing. It's not like he's just taking things from Lord of the Rings or something old. He's bringing it into his world and is making it his own, right? And the world of Imaneska has three major nations: the warlike Skullgrad, the seafaring Arca, which the main character Farden is from. I'll get more into him, and the mysterious sirens. And the sirens are basically, they have a connect. They're like, they have scales on them. They have a connection with dragons, and they got like a bond with the dragons. And the world building that he uses in this book is incredible, because he's got all the different places, he's got all the different types of creatures, and most importantly, he's got all these concepts going on. And I'll talk about some of those concepts. So one concept is, so the book is called The Written, and so the main character, Farden, is actually part of the an elite group of spellcasters called The Written. And they have to go through this dangerous ritual that only half of people survive, and it's very secretive. And I don't want to go too far into it because that would ruin the book, right? Because that's a big part of it. And a few other concepts are, as dragons grow older, their scales become more gold, and so like the oldest dragon, he's like super gold dragon, and the sirens, they have a strong bond with the dragons, and as they bond with the dragons, they start to actually look like their dragon counterparts. So there's just some interesting things and examples of how Ben Galley takes all these known concepts and puts them into the world and makes them his own. So the world building is like incredible. I don't know how he has how he thought about all this. He must have worked on this for a long time, and no wonder why the book is 500 plus pages, right? But it's quite needed because because the concepts need to be explained. So the main character Farden is actually a part of The Written, and he's an interesting character. He's stubborn, he's violent, and his father had a horrible reputation. So he's basically trying. He's a really big tryhard, and he's trying to change that vision of him, and he doesn't want to be like his father. And he even has some addiction problems with this drug called Nevermar, and there's just a lot of depth to him as a character. He there's even a little bit of a love story in there, and yeah, and so the character Farden is not really a super funny character, but he is full of wit, and he creates some humorous situations, and yeah, everything comes together, right? And I love that about this book. Now let's see, I forgot what I was going to get to next. Okay, I'm still working on this. So yeah, so it's a long book, okay? So why? You heard all what I like about the book. So what don't I like about the book? So what I don't like about the book is pretty much. So because of the world building, the world is very complex, and so there's all these different, all these different places that he lists, all these different continents, right? And to me, it's really hard to keep track of all of it. And so when I was reading the book, I would always wonder, where things were taking place, what was going on. That was a big issue that I had, but maybe that's just because I'm not the smartest tool in the shed. Maybe some good readers would, be better at that. But at the end of the book, after you finish the book, there's a whole bunch of maps at the beginning of the book, and you can kind of look at the maps and kind of figure out what's going on. So I had a hard time sort of understanding what was going on. That was the con that I had about the book. But is that, just because I'm dumb, am I going to hold that against the book? I guess I am. So, the complexity of the book. So I want to go back to another positive. So another positive is that the imagery that he uses in the book is very vivid. And so most books actually I feel like they have a lot of action scenes and fighting actually get bogged down in that. And then I find myself actually skipping those parts because they're boring, right? And because I don't, it's just fighting against, it's like, who cares? Well, and he does a very good job of putting an image of what's going on, even for me. And he paints a really good picture. So the action is actually really good, and it actually progresses the story. If the action does not progress the story, then you should just leave it out, right? And an example of this imagery is Ben Galley loves to have his creatures squirting different colored blood, right? So like at the beginning of the book, Farden is attacking a worm that I believe has blue blood. I don't know. You put a lot of different color blood in your book, So I don't remember what, but he talks about him fighting the worm, and like the worm starts to bleed all over the snow, and then he starts to bleed all over the snow, and the snow mixes. The imagery is great. Okay, that's just one example, but and he uses the colored blood in a lot of stuff, right? So so I would ultimately give this book a 4.5 out of 5. It's like I'm not much of a reader, but it's like the best book I've ever read. So why did I not give it a 5? Well, I didn't give it a 5 because I didn't understand the last 0.5%. I was kind of confused about the area, about what was going on, but that could be my fault, right? So, this is just the first book of the series, I think I might not. You see, since I've already reviewed this book, I'm not sure if I'm going to read the whole series, because I might want to go to one of his other series, like Chasing Graves. I might do that one next. I might not finish this whole series, just because it's a long series. 500 pages for my little brain, I'm not sure I can handle it. But I'm going to at least read another one of his books. And he's an amazing writer. And I did some research on Ben Galley, right? And he's doing a lot of different things. He's got his own website. He's got his own, and I'll give you the link for that. And he's got, he even has a the written graphic novel. Which, right, when I was reading the book, I was like, man, this really should be a graphic novel. And then when I researched it, it's like, I got a graphic novel. Man, I don't know how you do it, Ben. You have a lot of content. So if there was an author that you wanted to get lost in and just be like, I'm going to focus on this author, Ben Galley is going to be your man. So I'm going to, and hopefully, I'd like to talk to him, maybe even interview him. I know he's a busy man. So, yep. My name's David Reeder with David Reeder Books, and I'm going to sign out, baby.